Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our podcast in Wolf's Mouth, or Gura Lupului in Romanian. I'm your host, Andy Wolf, or Andy Lupu, and I have a special guest today. He came straight from Germany in order to discuss with me and tell us about his life story, because he's more than 80 years old and he is well fit, and he has a lot to tell us because he was born in during the World War II in Germany. And also, he was a person who traveled all over the world in more than 150 countries, right?
Right, yes.
And he has a lot of experience selling Encyclopedia Britannica books. So, welcome, Rolf.
Thanks, Andy, for receiving me.
Okay. So, if you would kindly tell a little bit about you, some short stuff about you.
Well, first of all, I like to say I'm now in Romania because Romania is a country where I have more friends than any other country in the world except my home country. When I told that in New York to my brother, he passed away now, when I told him that I visited him, he wouldn't talk to me for 3 days. Then he said, "Why Romania?" Well, I said, that's the way it is, period.
People usually put stamps on everybody and think if they meet someone who's a bad person, they think all of them are bad persons. So I think it's not like that. You have to know each people to realize that the Romanian people are, and I say that as a Romanian, that are very good-hearted and welcome everybody to their country.
Well, sorry, I'm not stupid, so I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's talk about your early life and historical context. You were born during World War II in Germany. What was your earliest memory of that time?
Well, I was born in Bremen, but I grew up, in the hospital in Bremen, but I grew up in a little village called Heißenbüttel. It's 50 kilometers from Bremen, and that's where I grew up. And it was a tough time. It was a matter of surviving. See, you had, where I lived in the village, if you wanted to learn to swim, you had to go in a bomb hole because if you're unlucky, the bomb would have hit the house, there would have been a house, but that's, in the countryside. And I grew up there, and I have 4 sisters and 1 brother. And at lunchtime, we had 13 people at the table.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah, that is my parents, 6 children, and 5 refugees. 13 people. And the food was very simple, but we had enough potatoes. We never left the table hungry, but my mother had not to call food is ready twice because we were
Everyone
there.
was
We were
ready, yeah.
there, right. So as I said, it was a tough time, and I remember when sometimes, I don't remember much about the war, but I remember sometimes a plane flying over there. I could see from the shadow that the planes anyway. So that's what I remember about the war. Not very much about the war. But then when the war was finished, we had another person. It was Ivan. He was a Russian soldier. He came on his bicycle, sat on the little table next to us, he had lunch with us. So that was, and as I said, one day he didn't come anymore. So
Interesting.
he
But he was a nice guy or a bad guy?
was a nice guy. Yeah.
So he was nice.
Well, he came.
Not all the people are bad, like I told you in the beginning.
No. He was a nice guy. That's why he came to have lunch with us. You see.
You know that tough times create tough people. That's what they say. How did you grow up in post-war Germany? Shape your perspective on life and success?
Well, then I went to school, which was very close to where I lived. When I was 6 years old, in that school, we had 4 classes for 1, 2, 3, 4 in one room with not many children, and our teacher I think he was the best teacher in my life. I still remember him today. Mr. Bullwinkle, his name was, and he taught me to think quickly, And I was very good at mathematics there. So that was where I grew up, and that was where I spent. And then I was, that year when we went to the next generation, the Realschule or middle school, in the whole life of that village, there was only one person who ever made that. That year we were 5.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, that's interesting. You had any significant childhood dreams?
Well, as I said, where I lived, it was the Realschule that was in Osterhald-Scharmbeck. That was about 15 kilometers. And there was in winter, we went by train. And it was funny. There was a train line between Bremen to Bremerhaven. And that is, Bremerhaven is the biggest port for emigration. And all the American soldiers, the GIs, came via Bremerhaven. Even Elvis Presley, later, he came to Bremerhaven to come to Germany, you see. And sometimes those trains, for some reason, they stopped in Oldenbüttel. There was a station, little station where I went by train one stop to go to middle school. And I saw people looking out of the window. First time I saw a black person and eating oranges. We have heard about, we call it Apfelsinen. We've heard about it, but we never saw one. And they were just cutting it open, sucking it out and threw it out the window. I said, well, where you go, I will go. And so I decided at that age to see the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That has an impact on your life.
Yeah.
And you're starting selling Encyclopedia Britannicas. How did you get into selling these known books?
Well, as I said, I grew up there, and then when I was 13, I went to Bremen, spent 7 years, and I got, just let me say before I come to Britannica. And then I got married when I was 20, my wife was 18, and 1 week later we took the ship to Canada. I had a visa for Canada, and I promised her, when you're 20 and promised her the land of milk and honey, we arrived there. So we arrived there in Montreal, and we went to Winnipeg. And first we arrived in Winnipeg, September, and about people always talk about the weather, you see. So, and I tell you, we arrived there, and it started to snow a little bit later, solid snow for 6 months, and it never melted. And they say Portage Avenue and Main Street in Winnipeg is the coldest place in North America. We had at that winter -40, and the wind chill factor is -64.
Wow.
So we stayed 2 years there, and then, 1 year, and then we went on to Vancouver. I lived there. Yeah.
Very interesting. So you had a rough start in your life.
No, it wasn't rough. I'm a tough man. So it was not rough. It was normal.
You say it like it's so easy, but usually we complain if in the house are 19 degrees.
Yeah, right. Well, as I said, today they complain about everything, you see. So we there, we had at the village where I grew up, there was a house, there were pigs and the chickens all living in the same house, you see. There was no running water. Toilet paper was newspaper. That's why we are so smart, you see. We use it then. Yeah.
Okay, and why did you choose Encyclopedia Britannica? What makes it so special?
Then I left, before I left Canada.
Yeah.
I stayed 2 years in Vancouver. My wife left 1 year before. She was homesick, and I stayed. And then, which was interesting, I toured America with a rucksack in a tent, and I bought a bus ticket for $99 for 99 days. It was not Greyhound, it was Trailways. I remember very well. And so I left Vancouver, went to Seattle, and then started my $99 ticket. And I had not much money. Yeah, I had $500, and that had to last there. So I toured America, and I tell you, I could talk for hours on that trip, as a young man. And then the funny thing was, I'm coming to Britannica just now, but that happened in South Africa. So, and then it was funny trip. I had a tent on sleeping bag and air mattress and a little cooker, spiritus cooker, to make my coffee and porridge in the morning, you see. So I went travel, and then I checked my luggage one day from San Francisco to Reno, and they lost my tent. And I went to the police. I said, listen, could you tell me where the next camping ground is? Well, they said, 10 miles that way. Well, I said, I'm on foot, and I don't have a tent. Well, they said, if you don't put up your tent, you can sleep in the park.
And you slept in the park?
I slept, I would say, in at least 30 parks in the USA. I slept in the parks very often because I didn't have a tent anymore. For whenever in the evening, I visited places, and in the evening, I had very little money. So either very often I just got on the bus to sleep, or I went to a small hotel, you see. So if I go on a bus and sleep, so I slept in the bus, or I went to a small hotel, or I slept in the parks. Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And I remember going to North Dakota, Mount Rushmore. You have heard of Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I went there, and then evening sometimes dancing. I was 23 years old. I had a long beard like this.
23 years old?
Yeah.
Whoa.
23. And they were there dancing, and there were some couples there. The guns, the revolvers were hanging there like you put your coat there, see? And I said, sir, would you mind if I dance with your wife? I was 23. I said, no, go ahead. So
of course.
I had a great time, you see. And American people are very, very hospitable. Very, very nice people in America. So I must say, I had no problem. But one thing which struck me even then, they had fallout shelters. That was the time when the Sputnik landed, and they were very afraid. So it was very strange to me. Anyway.
So this was about in 1960s?
1960. Okay. No, not 1963.
1963.
October, November, December 1963, that was, yeah. Right. Yeah.
You're a living history, believe me.
Yeah, so and I said, then I toured. I went to New York. My brother lived in New York. And I said, listen, I want to go to Harlem. He said, Rolf, you can't go to Harlem. I said, what do you mean I can't go to Harlem? It's too dangerous. I said, I want to go to Harlem. And so we went to Harlem because I want to go. So for me, there's no saying you cannot do it, you see. So things like this, you see, all small things. Then I went back to Los Angeles. Then I went back via New Orleans. I went back to New York. And then I had no more money. So I went with him to the harbor. And I went on the goods freighter ship. And I spoke to the captain, and I worked myself back to Europe on the ship. I had to pay $25 for the insurance. The funny thing is, if you go on a train, on a ship in December, North Atlantic, you know what happens? Your cabin is next to the propeller at the back. It's like this. 24 hours a day, see, on the North Atlantic. I was seasick from the very first day. But they understood. And then there was a guy, also a guy who worked there, an electrician. He was from Austria. He was midship. It was very, very good there because there was no movement, you see. So I worked myself back, and I arrived for Christmas. I arrived in Germany.
Whoa. So you made like 2 weeks on the boat?
Yeah, it's
2
about
weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah,
You went back to Germany.
right.
Before we go further, I want to ask you, which city was or which place was the greatest in America, in your point of view?
I must say, in America, I liked America. I like to travel America. I went to the Grand Canyon. I say, my son even says, Papa, you have to do more. I went to the Grand Canyon one day on foot, down and up, one day. And it was about short way was 8 miles down and long way 16 miles up. I went to Pikes Peak in Colorado. So in the cities, I went San Francisco, you name it, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Pasadena. So Boston. I liked America. Nice place to visit.
But which was the nicest place? Which one you like the most?
Well, like anywhere in the world, the nicest place is always who you meet.
That's a good one.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Right.
And you went back to Germany. After that?
Well, I said I went back to Germany. Because I had again no money, so my mother made me cut off my beard because she said you will not get a job here. So I worked 4 months in Germany for. My trade is I was a forwarding agent by profession, and so I worked there 4 months, and then I should go to the army again, but I did not want to go to the army, the German army. Because I said, I want to see the world. I don't want to be there. So I emigrated then to South Africa. Got my documents, I emigrated to South Africa.
But how come you wanted exactly South Africa?
Well, there were basically at that time 4 countries in the world from Germany where you could emigrate to. Canada, USA, Argentina, South Africa, and Australia, 5 countries.
5 countries. And you went to South Africa by plane or by plane?
This time by plane, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then what happened there?
Well, I joined a construction company there. Very lucky. And but I had no money. I moved 13 weeks. I moved every weekend because I had only money for 1 week. Till I found a good place to stay in, the YMCA.
Okay.
I stayed in the YMCA for a few months, and then some friends, we 3 of us, we rented a house. That was Johannesburg.
Interesting. And then you started selling Britannica right away?
Well, what happened then? I got fired in my construction job. I got fired. The reason was, I'm not stupid. You see, I was assistant buyer, and I checked the invoices, and I knew something was not right. Right? And I said, listen, I went to the boss. I said, listen here, we can buy these things cheaper somewhere else. So I could compare the invoices. And so they fired me. So they fired me, and I was looking for a job. And just before about 2-3 months, I bought an encyclopedia called the Grolier Encyclopedia. I bought it. And so, about a week before, a guy came from Britannica to try to sell me Britannica. I said, well, listen, I just bought it. But I spoke to him, can you make money? He said, yeah, it's pretty good. And so then I was looking for a job. So I went for interviews one day, 3 interviews. Grolier was a young guy making a mass interview. I was not impressed. And Colliers, I was also not impressed, was a young guy. And then Britannica. I never forget that interview. It was Mr. Vic Diamond interviewed me. And when he interviewed me, and he said, Rolf, if you show this program to 3 people, 1 will buy. And so he got up and he was leaning against the wall and said goodbye to me. So he was very sick. Only joined Britannica because of him. Right. So that's how I joined Britannica. And I started, funny enough, my training with Britannica on the 14th of February, 1966. On Valentine's Day, I started my training with Britannica.
So you were 26 years old, right?
Right.
So it's never too late to make money.
No, and then I said, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. But then I said, Mr. Diamond, he liked me very much. And then he said, Rolf, you want to go on a trip? And he said, yeah. So he said, listen, you can go to Namibia on a trip, sell there. So I flew to Namibia without a car, and I sold Britannica there without a car. And I tell you, you make appointments. It's not like you have a smartphone. You go to the post office and you dial, and then, and then the operator says, okay, wait a minute, and then you tell them, and then they connect you. So I remember that is how we made the appointments then, you see.
But I know that Encyclopedia Britannica was expensive, right? Not an unusual person could afford it.
Yeah.
How come you found the right person to buy it?
No, that was, as I said, I went to Namibia. We had some leads. We were advertising and some leads. So, and then I learned the presentation. And the presentation I learned at that training, I still do today. It was what we call a cooperative offer. Today, well, the last 25 years, I'm only selling to diplomats. I call it diplomatic offer. But it's few words we changed, but exactly the same presentation. And that is how we had some leads, and and we knocking on doors in Johannesburg. But this was on a trip in Johannesburg. We're knocking on doors. I said, just, and so it's knuckles because of knocking on doors.
And what was the selling percentage between pitch and the selling? Like you talked with 100%. How many books, how many sets you sold?
Well, I just told you that Mr. Diamond told me, if you show this to 3 people, 1 will buy.
And it worked?
The most difficult thing is to give the presentation. That is a difficult thing, right? And for that, you have to either you knock on doors, or you have leads, or you do a lot of pass-outs, and so till you get an appointment and you give a presentation, you see. And and then I would say my closing rate was 1 out of 2. It is like this. And you have 5 presentations. 1 will not buy. 1 will buy 1 of 5. And the secret is if you can still sell 1 of the other 3, you see, that's the secret, so that you have a good closing rate.
And how were you discussing with them? What's the most important thing that you have to do during the presentation?
Well, I said, you have this, you have your sample volume and you have your broadside, and you do, and one of my things was always now, there are 4 basic needs of life. Food, it goes for everyone, anywhere, anytime in the world. Food, clothing, shelter, and education. And with education, you can acquire all the others, right?
Okay.
So Britannica is known as being the most respected reference work in the world, even today, you see. Although, right?
But during these times, I think it's pretty hard to sell someone a book because no one wants to read anymore.
Well, I believe there's nothing wrong with modern technology, but for the books, advice I can give young people to read is you don't need a password for that, right?
True. You just open it.
You just open it, and no, I think the one should complement the other.
Usually, when you sold the books, many times I think you got rejected. But how would you behave when you got rejected?
Listen, in life, you get more rejections than acceptance. That is the fact of life, if you like it or not, you see. So rejection is part of life. How can I say it? One of the key words in life is respect. You try your best, either you win or you lose.
And even if you got rejected, you still sold some books? Because sometimes he says, firstly, he says no. But after that, he says maybe. And the third step, he would say yes. So did it happen to you this many times? Like the first he said no, and then you still sold them the book?
Well, as I said, depends on, I said, first thing is to make an appointment. That's the first thing. And then you arrive at the appointment. Important thing is to be on time, and you never get a chance. You never get a second chance for the first impression. You have to make a good impression. And then you do your pitch and you sell. Now, I can tell you hundreds of stories. I give you a good story late in Germany. I sold to, and I would say very seldom seen a more beautiful house than that was in Wuppertal. And not far from Wuppertal comes one of the great Germans, Nietzsche. He comes from Wermelskirchen, you see. You have heard Nietzsche.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Anyway, I went there and saw that, and guy was elderly guy, not dressed very well. His wife was very elegantly dressed, young one, and they had this little dog. And the dog comes to me, and and they had a table, these tables to the wall. It's a built-in table, and the guy was sitting up at me, his wife next to him, and the little dog came there. It was a Pekingese, I think. Anyway, the little dogs.
Yeah.
And he came to put his head on there, and I sold, and the guy was very arrogant, and I told him, I will sell you. It's the most expensive binding. You see, we have different bindings in Britannica, which I did, and he bought. And then when I left, I shook hands and I said, listen, you have a very nice dog. And they looked at each other. We cannot understand. What? That dog barks at anybody, and especially now when you leave, and he didn't do anything. Well, do you have dogs? No, I said, I don't have a dog. But then we can understand. And I think they only bought because the dog was coming to me and putting his head on my knee. So but I can tell you many sales stories. So it's the first impression in life which is important, no matter what you do.
First impression counts the most.
You never get a second chance for the first impression, right?
Okay, and you traveled the world. What's the most interesting country you traveled to?
As I said, for me, it's always important. Two things: most interesting or the most beautiful. Let's first talk about the most beautiful because it's very simple.
Okay, the most beautiful
I have
one.
seen Cape Town. I've seen Rio de Janeiro. I've seen the nice cities in the world, you see. But most beautiful for me is Vietnam. Halong Bay, Vietnam. You should look it up. Halong Bay, Vietnam is for me the most beautiful scenery in the world. Whenever I go there, I go on a little boat for 2-3 days. I stay there. It's the most interesting. I said, where I meet friends. See, I always say I never really have been to the country where I've met anybody and locals. See, to stay in a Hilton hotel is not having been in the country. You see, I said I can tell you I've made good friends in Mongolia see. I don't care about religion or politics. I go. My passport says, German passport says, good for all countries. That's what the passport says. That's what I believe in. So if I want to go to North Korea, I go to North Korea. If I want to go to Cuba, he said, how
So
can
you went to North Korea?
Twice, yeah.
Twice?
Yeah.
And what do you think about North Korea? Because everyone is scared to go there.
Yeah, because people have no brains, you see. They think they have no idea. If you want to go to North Korea, it's very simple. When you want to go anywhere, what you do, you phone the embassy. What you need. First time I went there, I said, listen, I phoned the embassy. Well, they said, phone a lady in Hanover. She's organizing trips. So, okay. And then I did that. And then she said, listen, send me your passport. I said, I cannot, I need it. Well, she said, the trip, I booked the trip with her. And I said, okay, you can pick up your passport in China, in Beijing, which I did. And then I went by train to North America.
North Korea.
North Korea, yeah. Right.
Did you sell a book there?
Did
you sell a book?
Funny enough, that trip I was really on holiday, right? It was my first trip to China, and I only was there a very short time, but I was 1 week there, and I just was there because I was in China. I said very close to go to North Korea. I did not sell a book, but give an example. I sold a Britannica to North Korean ambassador in Belgrade.
Okay.
Yeah, and he comes, he says to me, "How much discount I get on 10 sets?" I said, "I'm not here to discuss the discount. I'm here to sell you the Britannica." And I sold him a Britannica.
Without a discount.
On normal offer.
Interesting. And which country felt the most like home to you?
Which country?
Yeah.
As I said, I believe my country is the world. My personal belief. So I'm at home wherever I go to when I'm there, right? So I believe my country is the world. I have a German passport, and my friends in Romania, you know what they call me?
How?
The Teutone.
Teutone?
Yeah, that's what they call me here.
Teuton?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They call me the Teutone.
Interesting. Have you noticed any common traits among people worldwide?
Sorry?
Common traits about people worldwide. Like something they usually do. Like we do something in Romania, you notice that someone from Vietnam does the same thing.
No, every country, I would say, is different. Every country has its own things. Like Romania, I must say, I'm so sad. It's such a nice country, and they have such a bad reputation. It's not selling itself well, right? That's my opinion, right? I remember when I came here, one of my first trips, I had an appointment with your president at that time, Mr. Iliescu.
You met Iliescu?
Yes,
And what do you think about him?
I phoned him up, and they said, "Yeah, okay, I have an appointment at Monday morning, 10 o'clock," but they told me he might not be back from his hunting weekend, and he wasn't back. So I went and I said, "Listen, please tell him I'm leaving for Geneva again on Wednesday if he wants to see me." So he saw me next day.
So you push it really
Well,
hard.
I said, I'm leaving for Geneva, which I did, you see. So I saw him next day. See, he made an appointment.
And you sold him Britannica?
No, I didn't sell him. I made a presentation. To
just
him.
the presentation.
I gave him. Yeah. And I met him again that same year. It's a Frankfurt Book Fair. He recognized me. We shook hands. And that was funny, actually. He gave a very good speech there. And then an Hungarian journalist asked him about the minorities of Hungarian in Romania. And he was so upset, and he ruined his whole speech. And in my opinion, was no reason for it, but I'm not a politician, so he ruined his whole speech with that. So the guy asked him a legitimate question, you see.
Have you met any important people around the world? Like presidents, the most known diplomats, or even Trump?
Well, as I said, I've met Anpa Gönc, the president of Hungary. Yes, and I met President Iliescu. Yeah, but I'm not the guy who runs. Where I stayed in Vancouver, the house there is the university. I never forget that address, 5795 Newton Wind. I stayed with Major General B.M. Hofmeister. And one day, who visited there? Prince Philip.
So you met Prince Philip?
I was not introduced him, but he came.
But you saw him in real person.
Yeah, he was as far away as you are now.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So I'm not looking for famous people. You see, right?
Yeah, because every people, even if it's famous, it's still some people. Like it's a man, it's a woman. You can talk to him. It's not like a god. Because every time I talk with people about these, they say. If someone is known around the world, let's say an actor or a star, they think that they are gods, but it's not. They are normal people.
Well, see, the problem is those people, they have bartered their life, their freedom. See, I have enough money thanks to Britannica, I sold enough books, and probably in more countries than anybody individual. I sold, but not more sets than anybody else, but in more countries than anybody else. I was international salesman award in South Africa and Germany, but I sold, and I've enough money than I need even today, and I can go wherever I want. I don't need any bodyguards, any of this crap. You see, they sold their freedom. Every famous politician, every famous person, they have no more freedom. That is, for me, the most important thing: health and freedom.
Health and freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you understand that? Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think was the most valuable lesson that you learned during your life?
Well, most valuable lesson is because I told you I grew up, it was very hard times, and my mother, she was bringing us up, and it was very tough, and she wanted me to study. And I said, I did. The most valuable lesson is to respect elderly people. And I did a lot for her, but today when I'm old, I think I should have even done more for her. See, feel sorry. That is what I feel sorry for, that I bought an apartment for her, things like that. But so the most valuable thing in life is to listen and to respect others.
Okay. And if you could go back in time, what would you change about your life?
Nothing.
Nothing? And still, if you would go back in time to a younger self, what would be a piece of advice?
Well, I said, if I had my life again, I would live it the same way.
Yeah, but would you say some advice to your younger self?
Sorry, I didn't.
Would you say, would you give an advice to your younger self?
Yeah, of course. I said, listen, I said, see the world, and that is it. See the world and be respectful. And I said, see, I like, see, important is also, today, at least in my country, in Germany, they're talking about immigration. Then see that if you come to a foreign country, you are a guest of the foreign country, and we have to behave like a guest. Also, make sure wherever you go, you are legal, and then be respectful. You have virtually no problems. Then, if you don't have that, you're illegal. They exploit you. See, so I don't want to go into politics there, but you see, you're exploited. So, to go and see the world. Yeah, that's what I can say. And I said today, and I said, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, but what do you think is the key to fulfill life?
Well, you have to do what you believe is right for you. Right?
Okay.
You decide. You're old enough to decide, and you do what you. So if you can read and write, you can do anything you want. You see, right?
And what advice would you give to young people who are watching us right now?
What advice? It said, live healthy. No, well, let's say if you can avoid it, don't smoke, no drugs, and sometimes it's and I have a glass of wine every day. And I hear all the stories, don't do that, don't do that. I decide. But live healthy, normal healthy. Don't listen to all this bullshit, diets and things like this. Live healthy, right? We all have enough money, at least in most parts, where we can afford to live healthy.
Is there a particular moment in your life that you consider the most meaningful?
Well, as I said, most meaningful was my first marriage, my first experience, my first love. And, you don't fall in love that often, you see,
Yeah.
but a few times.
Okay. And you have 2 kids, right?
I have 2 children, but for my second wife, yeah.
And you have grandchildren?
No.
No grandchildren.
No.
And at your age, you told me something before the interview that you write in your diary
Yeah.
how many days you lived past 75 and how many days you are left 100.
Well, I can tell you, and I look at my diary, just a minute.
Take your time, it's no rush.
Yeah. So, as of now, as we are talking, I believe a normal human being in our part of the world has a right to live till 75. So, and above that, I believe you have, like the season, you have spring, you have summer, you have autumn, you have winter. So, spring, things grow, you plant things. Summer, what you have planted will grow. In autumn, what has grown will be harvested. And then each period is 25 years old, and it's 75. And now, if you're lucky, you live some more. And I write it down every day, so to motivate myself. You see, today I have, excuse me, I have lived 3,525 days on credit, and I have 5,600 days to live till I'm 100. So I intend to live till 100.
So the credit will be bigger.
No, it will, because we are not 200 yet, you see.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the credit will be one day less every day. Every day, it's one day less.
That's a good motivation for you. Every time to write down how many days you have to live.
Well, as I said, you should be lucky if you wake up in the morning, so you make the best of it. You should give every day the chance to being the best day of your life. By the way, from Benjamin Franklin, right?
And how do you want to be remembered?
I wanted to be remembered as a good father.
As a good father.
Yeah.
And do you have any final thoughts to everyone who's watching us right now? Some piece of advice, some thoughts, final thoughts?
Well, as I said, I've traveled with young people a lot, and I must say, how can I say? See, people come to me sometimes now. They say, when you told us something 20 years ago, I said, well, it's an old man talking nonsense. Now they coming back, the same people, they say, they are 20 years older, so am I. Say, what you told us that time, you were right. So that is a flattery to me. As I said, everybody has to make his own decision about things in life. Only advice I can give him: live healthy and enjoy life. Enjoy life is the only purpose of life.
That's nice to hear, because people nowadays are really sad about small things. But we should not consider that small things are really that bad. And we should look forward for the great things that would happen in life.
Yeah, better about smoking.
No.
Small things, you see.
Small things, yeah, small things,
Yeah,
not
right,
smoking.
right.
So small things. Because we get upset if we are late somewhere, if something doesn't happen how we want it. We are upset and we think that it's the end of life. But it's not like that, because life is long, like you showed us.
Well, like see, you had corona, huh?
Coronavirus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coronavirus. I believe it was a coronavirus, you see. I had injection too, but I believe the corona is like me, like mosquitoes is, right? And you know what it's a very simple. I tell you little stories about mosquitoes. You see, I went once on a boat trip on the Danube Delta here in Romania, and it was summer and a lot of mosquitoes. And luckily enough, I had a Flachmann. You know what a Flachmann is? It's a small bottle, flat bottle. We call it Flachmann in German, of alcohol. Right with me, Olinka.
Yeah.
Small bottle Flachmann. And I opened that and I drank a bit and I rubbed my face, everything. No mosquitoes. And I think, if you're honest, we don't need all the expensive medicine, which are sweet and lovely, also for the mosquitoes, you see. So, as I said, live healthy and look after yourself. That's all I can say.
And I have in the ending, I forgot to ask you the story about Brazil.
Yeah, well, I said, when I saw Britannica, I can tell a lot of stories. Once I had an appointment with your ambassador, a Romanian ambassador in Brazil. And so I come and see him. And when I come into, the ambassadors have a nice office, everything. He said, Mr. Ellmers, can I offer you a drink, a whiskey? I said, Your Excellency, if you can offer me a drink, you can offer me a Zoika. He said, Zoika? Wait a minute, he said. He got up behind the curtain there, and he came with a bottle of Zoika. He said, oh, for my friend in Brussels. He said, it's very, very good. So I drank a Zoika with him. And then I said, would you mind if I have another one? So as I said, it's the first impression is important. And don't overdo it. Don't bullshit. Be honest.
Be honest, okay.
Yeah.
And I want one more final story of your time selling the books.
Well, as I said, I have so many different experiences in different parts of the world. Okay, I give you it's too intimate. Okay, I'll give you a story.
Give it.
Okay. Last, I was selling in Germany, and I was selling in Eastern Europe here, and then I was selling the last. See, I joined 66 now. That's 59 years ago, you see.
Yeah.
The only reason I could do it because it was the same product, but I changed the territory. So then I went with the diplomats, 2000. And I remember a young lady from Bucharest, Diana. We went to China, her and me. I had been there the week before, the month, summer before, and then that's when I went to North Korea. Then I went to November again, and we stayed there 1 month. We saw a lot of books in that 1 month. And she said to me, listen, I trained her. She was very new. And I said, go to Suriname, Embassy of Suriname. Because she had to, and she comes back with an order. But this is not what I want to tell you. Then on another trip, same Diana, she said, Rolf, I have an appointment with the ambassador of Oman at 8 o'clock at the hotel. I said, Diana, you know the rules. Do not see diplomats at the hotel after hours. We only see them at the embassy. Okay, but I go with you. What will happen? I don't have to tell you. See, so I said, I go with you. And there he was sitting, hoping, and with his Chinese interpreter. But when he saw me as well, so we went up to the room, but it was okay, you see. So, no, you see, you have rules and regulations, and you have to stick to them. See, selling Britannica for me was the best thing which could happen. I made money than every time I took the girls on a trip. We went on a trip. We had a lovely experience, and we always came back richer. Then we went there, and we had a holiday and worked hard. It was a fantastic combination. We didn't get rich, but I did well.
Live well. That's the thing. Thank you for your life stories, life advice, and telling us your insights.
Yeah, as I said, I told you about the weather and everything. So, as I said, this was very nice talking to you, and very nice. And I hope I didn't make a mistake.
No mistakes. You were the true self, and I wait you back in Romania in 10 years, or when you reach 100, to make an interview when you reach 100 years old.
Okay, we will shake hands on that.
We shake hands on that. Thank you very much, Rolf.
Alles klar. Thanks.